So I have checked I visited the site. No, here's the general result. There's 2 on the borderline. I'm not sure if everybody has taken because some have emailed. There's no, if you are above 60, there's no need for you to retake. No, okay. Anyway, before we start, no, an email was given by the dean, no, regarding the schedule of the summative assessment. Okay, the summative assessment will be the basis of your grade. Okay, now you must pass all the summative assessments, the 3 formative assessments. No, we will not have any more formative assessments starting this day. All the rest will be repetitions, no, of those who haven't taken passed yet, but so few haven't passed yet. No, so the requirement to take the summative test will be to pass all the formative tests. Our schedule will be November 9. NSM, no? Natural, we are under the NSM course classification of courses. No? So November 9 will be our schedule for summative test. I scheduled this for 2 days. No, this will be a 100-item test covering everything. No, summative from the start, including the history of computing, everything we've taken. No, I think I can give you a practice test, and then all topics that we are going to take from starting today. Okay, any questions? So if you look at our topics, most of the topics remaining are programming topics. So most probably you have repeated this already. What programming languages are you using in intro to programming? Are you under Mr. Pasa? Everyone? Okay. C++, okay? So we'll have okay, kung C++, madali lang tayo matapos, okay? Because JavaScript and C++ are very much the same. Okay? Yung Python, well, we have to do some translation, no? Sana C++ na lang. Total, Python will be repeated again when you do Django. It will be repeated several times as you go through. Anyway, okay. Have you done programming in high school? Most probably many of you have done programming in high school, no? Especially those who are taking science and technology track. Okay, kung Python, di naman yan magkalayo. So maybe we'll just manage, okay? So there's if you look at our site, there's already a quiz, some sort of a quiz, which I am requiring you to take, but it's not really a quiz. It's for you to identify the URL address of your personal website. Your next assignment will be to create a personal website. I prefer that to be on W3 Spaces. Why are we needing a website? Because this is where we will submit our programs. No, from now on, okay, you will submit your programs in your website. Okay, so that I may not have to check them one by one, file per file. No, what I'm going to do is to visit your website and view your code. Okay, for example, here I have a JavaScript program. Okay, adding 2 numbers. Okay, simple adding 2 numbers. I will run this like this. No, your program like this. No? Okay, like this. This is a JavaScript program, and I can just view your source code. No, this is how I will check. Okay, okay. So the first thing that you will do now, starting today, no, is to create your personal website in w3spaces.com. Okay, w3spaces.com. Okay, take note of everyone, huh? You can use your email to log in there, no? Everyone, no? If you have a preferred site, you can use them as long as you specify them correctly in the quiz, no? In the quiz. No? So you can sign up here, no? In my case, I already have an account. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sa waiting room po daw si Angeles.
Okay, Angeles. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So let me log out first, no? So for example, I can log in using my Adu email, no? In your case, you sign up, okay? I already have done this myself. So I just have to log in, okay? Mali. Let me look up for my password. No? Okay, let me check my password first. Kasi nalimutan, I forgot. But anyway, I've saved it somewhere. It's a simple enough. A very simple mistake. I have this already. So I've logged in. So this is what you will have. Okay. Now you can look at your spaces here. Click your spaces. Then you will have your list of space. You can create any web space that you like. And then you can click this, what do you call this? What kind of button is this? Burger. It's not a sandwich. More button. No? You show files. These are the files that you will have. No? So you will have an index.html. Okay. This is where you will create your first web page. You will write your web page here. Okay. So now you write a web page and then you can preview. Okay. This will be your official site, no? Your name, w3spaces.com. Okay. Do you follow? So in our Dagger class, there's a quiz there. I've set it to expire next week because next week you will already be launching your first web page. Okay? So ito, you answer this. You give me the URL, okay, of your web page. I suggest you use W3 Spaces. I'm sure there are other sites, no, which will give you hosting, which you can use to host your web page. Okay? So anyway, no. So nandito, no. Where is it? Nawala, no? Let me check, no? Maybe somewhere near the HTML, no? Ito, this part. Do you follow? Okay. Do you see this? Okay. There are already 3 attempts. Let me check. Walang answer. Okay, you specify an answer here, okay? There's still an error in the, no. But anyway, I'll correct that later, no? So you specify your file there, okay? Your URL dito. For example, in my case, I can write JRA Ralde dot w3spaces.com. Okay, do you follow? Pigo is here. I'll check the attendance later. Okay, so if you look at if you open yours, this is the site, you will have the web page there. Any questions so far? So please do that, because by next week you'll start uploading your first web page. Okay, and then you can also download a programming tool called Visual Studio Code. I've used this before. Ito yung ginagamit. I'm using this because you can play before you launch, no? You can okay. You can create your run. You can run your websites before you launch them. Okay. Do you follow? Okay. So this is Visual Studio Code. No, you download this and install this in your in your PC, and then you are going to install a plugin called Live Server. I'm going to show you that next meeting, when we run services. For the moment, you run your web page in W3 Spaces. Okay. Any questions so far? So yeah. Okay. So before we write programs, we need to have a web page. Okay. Why? Because it is the web page that houses our JavaScript. No? But before we do that, by the way, meron pa tayo introduction to programming languages. You have done this already, right? Before. So programming languages were written so that, because it's very difficult to write programs in terms of machine language, right? Because the language of a machine does not apply to another. Okay, so a unique architecture will have a unique machine language. Okay, so a third level programming language is needed so that we can program in a much easier way, in the sense that we don't have to use binary language, binary numbers, no, and we can also use human readable syntax. Like in this case, this is a C++ program. You know what this is, no? So main means this is the main function. Okay, you don't have to have main in IAS or in DEC PDP 11. Okay, you have load, store, jump, no, and then you have to understand the mechanics of a jump. If you have a jump, if minus, you have to know that there's a subtraction that's done before the jump is done. Okay, so unlike in a third level language, you just have to interpret words closer to human vocabulary, like clear. CLR SCR means clear screen. Printf means print a string. Okay, gets means get a character. Okay, so it's not in machine code. So there are three levels, no? High level language, assembly language. There's a syntax error here. Machine language, the one you do when you're writing DEC PDP 11. There's no other choice. Or when you're writing a program for the IAS, no? That's machine language. Assembly language is that level where the numbering system used is hexadecimal. It's still machine dependent, no? So the common programming languages we now have are Python, C++, C#, Ruby on Rails, no, COBOL, Fortran, and so on and so forth. Okay, you read this yourself. Okay, very easy reading. Now, what's the history of all this? Remember that before the 1960s, no, programming is done using machine language. Okay. By 1959, new programming language was developed. It's called Fortran in the IBM PC. IBM 709, I think, no. It's in our it's in our history. Sometimes when it's history, you also forget the history, but it's okay as long as you know that the first programming language is Fortran. Okay. Nandito, no? 1959. 1957, okay? 1957 pala, no? John Backus in IBM invented Fortran. 1958, ALGOL was invented. It's a very popular language. It's the predecessor of the modern C#, C++, Java, and Pascal. Pascal is still popular nowadays, no? Okay. In 1959, IBM devised a program by Grace Murray Hopper for their system S36, okay, to be used for business applications like formerly, no, IBM has a software for airline reservation during that time. It was programmed using a third level language called COBOL, which is short for Common Business Oriented Language. Now, COBOL was the first official database programming language, okay, that accesses a database officially. In 1959, a language for artificial intelligence was written by John McCarthy of MIT. It's called Lisp. Many people are still using this. It's the predecessor of Ruby on Rails, and Python. Okay. Lisp is not a procedural programming language. I've programmed this myself, no? Not during 1959, but during the 1980s. Okay. This is an object-based programming language. It's not object-oriented. What do we mean by object-based language? When you're writing a program, you're procedural. You write a procedure. Step 1, step 2, step 3. When you're using Lisp, you don't write a procedure. You describe what you are going to get. You describe the object that you need to get. Now, that's very common in SQL nowadays. SQL is non-procedural. Now, when you make a query, you describe what you want. Okay. So, if you're good in Lisp, you can use that facility or that proficiency in Lisp to create elegant SQL procedures. Okay, I'm also using that myself. No? In 1964, BASIC was invented by John Kemeny and Thomas Kurtz. No, it's called Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. It's also the first official programming language sold by Microsoft. First software, no, sold by Microsoft for the IBM PC. In 1970, Nicholas Worth invented Pascal, the popular language when I was a student. It's still popular nowadays. It's in the platform called Delphi. Smalltalk was developed in 1952. This is also the predecessor, no, of Python, Java, and Ruby on Rails. Smalltalk is a scripting language, which means that it's run as an interpreter, not as a compiler. No? Do you know the difference already? I hope you do. No? Now, 1972 was very significant because it was then that C was developed in Bell Labs. Bell Labs is now called AT&T. It's like PLDT or Smart, no? Smart Communications. It was developed by Dennis Ritchie, no? From a programming language called B. And it's C. No? In 1972, SQL was developed at IBM. We're still using that, no? It's very popular. 1978, a language for mathematical computation was developed. It's called MATLAB. This is the predecessor of modern programming languages. There's Objective-C in 1983. It's not yet object-oriented C. In 1983, Bjorn Stroustrup invented or extended the C language to C++, which became object-oriented. So there are facilities for reusing, like information hiding and inheritance. You define an object in terms of its properties and its methods. That's how you do it in object-oriented programming. Okay? It's available in C++. Perl was developed in 1987. It was the first official scripting language used for the web. Perl script. Haskell, a predecessor of MATLAB, in 1990. Python was developed in 1991, also to compete against the most popular scripting languages during that time, which are Ruby and Perl and PHP. Okay, meron. No, PHP is 1995. I'm sorry, no. Visual Basic was developed in 1991 by Microsoft. No, it's still now there in Visual Studio, although it's not becoming popular anymore because of the popular C#. 1995, Java was developed by Sun. And also 1995, PHP was developed as an open source development for creating web pages. PHP stands for personal home page. We will not be using PHP, but we will be using JavaScript. JavaScript is a competing language. Ruby on Rails, predecessor of Perl script, also for web development. And JavaScript, our favorite. This will be our official platform. JavaScript is very popular nowadays. In fact, many will contend that it's more popular even than PHP and Python. In fact, that's because the leading websites are using JavaScript. What are these? Amazon, no? If you want to apply in Amazon, you must be proficient in JavaScript. The problem with JavaScript nowadays is it's a very complicated language. At the start, it's simple, but in the back end, there are 5 versions of JavaScript which are still active. So while you have to know the modern version, you also have to use the oldest version. That's a problem with JavaScript. But if you want to land on a high-paying job, the highest paying jobs on the net nowadays are those programmers from JavaScript. Okay, you can research. Amazon is hiring programming languages starting at $3,000 a month. Home base. Okay, home base lang, $3,000. It's about 150,000. C# was developed in 2000 to compete with JavaScript and PHP. Scala in 2003, we don't know this. Go was developed in 2009 for artificial intelligence. Now you have AlphaGo and AlphaZero, intelligent programs, and so on and so forth. First, we need to write HTML. Tim Berners-Lee, he invented HTML. Now, we need to write HTML because we will launch our JavaScript programs in HTML. Okay. Now, our the basic part where we are going to launch the main material we will use for HTML programming will be W3 schools. That's why we are using W3 spaces. Okay? Kasi kung pupunta ka sa W3, if you look at our sites, like here, basic HTML. You will be given to, or rather directed to W3 schools. We have a lot of things already, Pangit itong bagong figure. The navigation is, if you have a very long, the navigation is difficult. Okay. Basic HTML. Okay. What is HTML? Hypertext markup language. This was developed by Tim Berners-Lee for document searching, and later became the official language of the internet, particularly by the browsers. So if you open this goes to W3 schools. What is an HTML document? An HTML document is the document that is rendered by the browser as you browse a web address, a particular web address. For example, if you look at what is your favorite? CNN.com. What's the favorite most popular website? Okay, okay. You can do a right click here. You can do a right click on any blank space and then view page source. Now you have the HTML here. This is the HTML file. Okay, this is the index. Now we have it starts with a doc type, and then it started with an HTML, and then if you go back at the bottom, it ends with another HTML. It's a very long HTML, so it's very hard to browse. But in our case, no, this is how an HTML should basic HTML file should be formatted. You format an HTML with tags, no? Tags. Ibig sabihin, there's a beginning tag and there's an end tag. So for example, there's a doc type tag because this is an HTML file. You can have a JSON file, no? You can have an XML file. So when you say doc type HTML, this is an HTML file. Okay. Now the doc type HTML tag is actually ended right away on the same line. This is the beginning tag. This is the end tag. The beginning tag is a lesser than sign. The end tag is a greater than sign. Now, then after the doc type, you have the beginning of an HTML tag. So this starts your HTML code. Okay, and then you have an end HTML code here. Okay, they should come in pairs. Okay, a failure to create the missing pair. When you create a missing pair, would create an error when the browser renders your web page. Now you will have a body because you will have a header, you will have a source, you will have links to styles. No, you can style your you start with a body, you end with a body. Okay, and then the basic tags are what? Header tags and paragraph tags. No, let's look at a header tag like this. No? So this is a header tag. A header tag is actually a line which comes in different sizes. Okay, we can try this. No, we can try this. No? Okay, and we will go to our W3 school spaces. Let me go back there now. To do that, you will go to your W3 spaces. You click this. You have show files. You have 27 KB data. No? You'll be allowed 100 MB. Now the file index.html should be your main page. No? This is where you enter. You can edit this because there's an edit file here. An edit. Okay. Let's change this. The body. I copied and then pasted. So I have a header. Let's remove this header. Headers are H1, H2 to H6. Okay, it's my body. I save, and then I can either preview or I can go directly to my site jraheralde at wspaces.com. So there it is. This is a heading here. Okay, I can edit my space again, and then she'll say this is heading 2. Okay. Oh no. Let's just show them all so we can see the difference. Okay, we have heading 1. We have heading. Now, if you want to separate them in 2 lines, you can say BR. BR is line break. Okay, line break. A BR does not have an end tag like the doc type. No, it ends with a Any questions so far, guys? No. I hope you see. I hope you see the no. Can I enlarge this? Yes. No. There's a lot of advertisement. So anyway, this is heading 3. This is heading 4. Let me save this and go back to my site and then refresh. Yes. So this is heading 1. This heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. It goes smaller and smaller. No? This is the paragraph that I've written. If you look at my code, I have 3 headings and 3 paragraphs. Okay, you follow? One paragraph is started on a what on one line. What will happen if you do not remove the no? If you remove, for example, the BR. Let's remove the BR here. Okay. Now it's still on a one line. No? So a break will just add an additional line. Okay. You follow? What will happen if you will put them in one line? Let's try this. Anyway, we can we can. So all headings are started on a new line. Okay. Like paragraphs. Any questions so far? So we have headings and paragraphs, okay? Very basic. How do we get an input? We can get an input tag by using this, no? Okay, by using forms. Like if you want to ask for names, no? You can do this. You can click the try it yourself here. No? Now we don't have okay, we can try this here. We can copy this and put this in our site. Where is it? Ito na. Where's that? Let's close this. Close this. Copy this and put it here. Control V. Okay. Save. Let's preview this and then we'll just start. So that's the input tags. This is the label. This is the input type text. Okay. Look at that, no? Input type text, which means it will be a text value because there are other input types. I'd like you to try this yourself. Now we don't have to try time to test everything. So kaya na lang bahala you try to test all the input types, no? Like buttons, checkbox, date, email, text. Okay, there are examples anyway, no? For example, you can have date, reset, no? Type radio, and we have this. Okay, include this. Okay. What will happen if you include this? This is a radio button. Before the submit button. Okay. We're going fast though. Sorry, no? Because you have to finish until November 9. Okay. I hope you understand. No? So let's so we have this, no? And then there's you want to file, you want to create a BR before this, so we can have our BR before the submit button. Okay. I hope we can have that. Oh, nandito na siya, okay? Do you follow? Do you get my point? We'll be using this continuously, no? Because we are going to get an input and then we're going to get we are going to get an answer and to supply an answer. Alas 2 na, no? 1:30 we started this. We will go ahead. No? Anyway, any questions so far? Guy, class, do you have any questions? No? So you make your own web page and submit it in Digger. Okay. Now, how do we write programs? The question is, how do we write our first program? We can now write a program as long as we know basic HTML. Okay. It's here now. How to start a JavaScript. Recorded ba tayo? I hope. Yes. Okay. Script tags. No? How do we start JavaScript? No? Like here. We start we can embed a JavaScript to an HTML, which means that there will be two languages in our HTML, an HTML code and a JavaScript code. No? A JavaScript code is included in a script tag, which starts with a begin script and slash script, which is the end. Do you follow? Do you follow? We don't have a try this yourself, no? Do we have a try this? W3 schools ito, pero walang try this. I'm sorry for that, no? But we will just try it ourselves, okay? So we can have a script tag inside, no? So I have here a sample web page, no? which asks for two numbers and then adds them, okay? Ask for two numbers and add them. But before that, let's have an introduction to JavaScript, okay? You had an introduction to ano, can you download this? Introduction to JavaScript. Okay. Okay, before we write the JavaScript into our HTML code, let us first try to describe what it is. Any questions so far? Oops, current slide. Okay. JavaScript is used for client-side scripting. What do we mean by client-side scripting? Now, there are two ways that a program or an application is run. Because when you connect to a URL address, like degler.edu.ph, you're communicating with a web server. Diba? And your site is called the client side. Which part of that? Your browser. Okay. So there is a communication activity going on between your browser and your web server. Do you follow? Okay. So there are two ways that the web page can be shown or rendered into your computer. It can be rendered by the web server, okay, like your sys, diba? You ask for your balance, it's rendered on the web server because the browser does not know how much your balance is. Okay, you want to know your grades in sys, so it digs the database and then displays the page, throws the page to your client browser. No? So that's called web server side scripting. Now, JavaScript is used for client side scripting. What's the difference? When you say client side scripting, it is rendered by the browser. Okay, the translator is the browser. Okay, the compiler is the browser. If you're doing C# or C++, you need Visual Studio to be your compiler. If you're using JavaScript, the browser itself is your translator. In fact, it is your interpreter. Okay, so if you're using Chrome is your translator or your platform. So in this case, JavaScript is used for client-side scripting. Okay, so your browser will ask for a GET request for a particular content from the browser, from the server. The server will give the content, and the JavaScript, okay, will tell your browser how it is going to render the information taken from the web server. Okay, so GET request talaga yan. Okay, now PHP is also used for dynamic web pages, which means it can be used for client side and server side. Like PHP, JavaScript nowadays can also be used for both sides, but JavaScript is more popular for client side. Client side. Although, of course, it's also becoming popular on the server side. It's called Node.js and Angular and React JS in Facebook. Now, when you are on the client side, you can either use PHP or JavaScript. Okay. What are the benefits of using JavaScript? It's usability. You can modify a page without having to call the server again. It's efficient because it runs on the client without having to wait for the server to finish. It's event-driven, which means that it can do actions according to the clicks and press on the mouse, the press on the keyboard, and so on and so forth. Okay? In fact, we can make a simple shopping cart. No? We can make payroll computation. We can make grade computation, no, in JavaScript. There are lots of things that we can do. Now, PHP, which is popular on the server side, PHP, Django, Python, server side, no, has the following benefits: security, because your server can have log in and log out. No, it's compatible because it doesn't matter what browser you use. No, it has power because it can write and open connections to large databases. Okay, you don't do client-side search for databases. You can do that in JavaScript. Although there's a version of JavaScript which can do that. Okay, so JavaScript is a scripting language like Perl, Ruby, no, and so on and so forth. No, they are used to make web pages interactive. Like you ask for a question and you generate an answer depending on the question and the answer. No, it reacts to an event. Okay, it performs calculations like you want to know the income tax. We'll have that application. No, given the income tax, the income of a taxpayer, compute the income tax. No? Given the score of a student, compute the grade. Okay. JavaScript is the standard events time immemorial. No? When the browsers came, JavaScript followed. Okay. It's not related to Java. No, Java is a different platform. Okay. So JavaScript is an interpreted by the browser. No? It's not compiled like C++. No, you compile it into an executable application. No, JavaScript is not like that. It is more relaxed. No, anong ibig sabihin ng relaxed? Easier programming, not necessarily so. But it has easier and more relaxed syntax rules. We don't have data types, which means that we do not distinguish integers from floats. Do you follow? We do not distinguish characters from strings. Okay? Characters and strings are the same. Floats and integers are the same. Do you follow? You do not declare a data type. You declare a variable and assign it a value. Okay? Variables don't need to be declared. You just set an assignment right away. The assignment statement is also the declaration itself. No? Although you can also do declaration if you want C++ style programming. No? The key construct of a function rather than a class. No? Nowadays, no, there's a version of JavaScript called TypeScript, which is already object-oriented. So class na siya. But the JavaScript that we are using is not class-based, it's function-based, no, rather than a class. Okay. It can be embedded or contained within a web page and integrates HTML and CSS content. So what is CSS? For styling, no? So you can change your colors, your fonts, whatever you like, your alignments, no? to decorate your web page. JavaScript is like the engine of a web page. And then CSS is like the chassis of that engine. The chassis makes the vehicle look beautiful. The engine makes it work efficiently. Okay? So, kumbaga sa kotse, yung paint, the chassis is CSS, styling. Okay? It's the makeup. No? Okay? JavaScript, this is Java, no? And JavaScript. JavaScript is coffee, Java is cocktail. Java is cocktail, JavaScript. JavaScript is coffee, oh. Java is coffee, JavaScript is cocktail. Okay, but it looks to decorate your web page. No? Java plus cocktail, coffee. Can you do coffee with cocktail? It's crazy, no? What will happen if you drink coffee with cocktail? You'll go wild. JavaScript and PHP are similar. They're both used for the same purpose on the client side. No? Interpreted, relaxed, case sensitive, no? Like C++. Regular expressions. JavaScript is more object-oriented, no? Than PHP. JavaScript focuses on the user interface and interacting with the document. In fact, you can't do PHP alone. You have to do JavaScript with PHP, but you can do JavaScript alone. You can do JavaScript without PHP, but you can't do PHP without JavaScript. Okay. So script tag, no, in place in an HTML page that brings a JavaScript code like that. We'll have several examples on this. No? Okay. Event-driven programming, no. So click. Whatever there is, press on a keyboard, click on a mouse, event-driven. Okay. Okay. You start programs with a main method, no? Like in event-driven programming, you start programs with a main method like C# or C++. JavaScript programs instead wait for user actions called events and respond to them. So they wait for mouse clicks, no? Event-driven programming talaga in that JavaScript. Okay, let's type hello world. Okay, button like this, no? Event handlers. I will not declare discuss this anymore. Okay. Okay. So there's if then else, no? There are logical operators. No? Null and there's a math class, no? You can compute floor and a ceiling. You can the cosine, the sine, cosine, min, max, no? Comments are written like in C++, no? So like this. That's how you declare a variable, no? Variable enrollment equals 99. You don't declare the type. You assign the value right away, so it becomes an integer. Median grade 2.8 becomes a float. You can do this, no? That's how you declare. Okay, so for example, you declare a string by saying var client name and assign it a value right away. Do you follow? Weight is 127.4. Equals is the assignment statement. Okay. So we have the same operators, plus, minus, times, divide, modulo. Plus, minus, minus, equals, plus equals, minus equals, times equals. In C++, all apply. Do you follow? No? Operators in C++ all apply. Okay. Single line comments, C++ style. Multi-line comments are also C++ styles. Do you follow? Okay. So, if you're familiar with C++, now there's another difference, no? Pag mag-declare ka var, okay. Math.floor.random. Math is a class, no? Math.floor.py. You get the floor of a pie. Okay, you have other methods, absolute, ceiling. These are the same in C++. Properties E and pi, no? These are constants. Math.e, I don't know what E is, but pi is 3.1419. Okay. Now, When you say ned equals null, it is undefined. It's the same concept as C++. It does not have a value yet. It exists, but it's like a mailbox without a letter yet. Okay. So logical operators are the same in C++. Greater than, not equal to. You can also say not equal to like this. And there's double equals. That's the assignment operation. No? Not and triple equals. A triple equals means that they are of the same value and or are of the same type. Okay? Because a string and a number can be compared. Okay? Like when you say 5.0 equals 5 is false. But when you say 5 string equals 5 is also false because they are of the same value but of different type, string and number. But you can say 42 equals 42.0. Okay, they have the same value, but one is a float, the other one is an integer. How can you say string 5 is equal to 5? Yes, but you can say string 5 triple equals. Okay, so the triple equals is not in is not in C# or in C++. When you say triple equals, you mean two variables should be of the same type and of the same value. When you say double equals, they can be of the same value but of different type. Okay? Okay? Any questions so far? Any questions? Okay, sandali lang ha. Okay, so triple equals, no? Any questions? If then else statements. Do you have questions with this? No. This is like C++. Yung sa Python programmers, this is how if then else statements are written. Okay? Exactly the same as C++. Okay? There's also Boolean true and Boolean false. Okay? Now the for loop. The for loop is identical with C++. Okay? For loops, but there's a for each loop. While loops are also identical. Do while loops are identical. And then you have switch and if then else, no? Okay. You can convert in strings to numbers automatically. When you say bananas plus count, so there count plus bananas, that the number 10 is converted into a string. Okay? Or you can say parse int for string 42. The 42 is converted into an integer. Parse float will convert a float into a string. Okay? Any questions so far? Any questions? So we have time for an example, okay? So alert method. This is we'll show this, no? Okay. Let's alert and alert is a method to ask or to ano. So, Okay, so let's have an example. No, you'll do a script. Example number 1. No, let's view the code here. Okay, so we are defining a button called click, and then we are defining as this is how you write your JavaScript. You have a script tag and you have an end script tag. No? Do you follow? You may have an empty. Okay, and now you have a body h1. No, do you follow? Okay, so here's an example of a JavaScript program. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so here's an example. No, we have an HTML and we have a script tag and we have an end script tag. You can do this anywhere inside the body. You can also even do this outside the body. Okay, and then we have add two numbers and we have an HTML button. Do you follow? Do you follow? This is where we see how we do event-driven programming. We have a button on click, and this is the button itself, no, compute button. Let's have this first, no. Let's have this first in our W3 spaces. Okay, let's erase everything from the body. Safe, no? Safe because yeah. We'll have a button first. This is how to declare a button. You have a beginning button and end button. And the label inside this, we say compute the sum, is the one that appears as the message on the bottom. Okay. Let's do that. Any questions? Okay, so this is add two numbers. Look at our add two numbers, and then we have compute the sum. Okay. If you click this, nothing happens because we haven't decided on what to do with this. No, do you follow? Do you follow? Now, to be able to do that, no? So, lagyan natin ng button on click. This one. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's put a button on click. Okay. Before the end of the beginning. Okay. When you say on click, click button, when this button is clicked, this click button function will be called. This is a JavaScript function. Do you follow? Do you follow? Any questions? No? Let's look at the code again. So on click button, now we will do a script function like this here. So now you see why we're using JavaScript. Because we cannot do this in C#, no? Especially online, no? Hirap. Okay. So now we have this button. We can now write the code. We can write it anywhere, no? Pwede naman dito eh, dito sa taas, okay? Script. As long you start it with the script. Okay? So instead of RABY, you can say let A equals blank x and y are 0. So therefore x and y here are 0 integers, okay? They follow? And you say A, prompt the first number. B is equal to prompt the second number. And then since A and B are strings, we convert them into parseInt, into integers using parseInt. X is parseInt of A, y is equal to parseInt of B. And let z equals y is equal to B. You can omit the left. No? Anyway, let's put it first. No? And then document.write will allow you to enhance, okay, your HTML, which means it will add an HTML line like this. H2, the sum is Z. H2 is header 2. Okay, we save this and then let's go here. Okay, Then compute the sum. Now it asks for the first number. The first number is 3. We click OK. The second number is 6. We click OK. And it displays the sum is 9. Okay. Do you follow? Now let's transfer it. Why? Because it's bucket. Let's transfer this button of the script. Kasi ang script na what we are hoping that, of course, no. Hindi siya mag-erase because it erased, no. Let's refresh. Ganun pa rin, no. Anyway, we'll try to find out how not to erase the previous contents later. Okay. Any questions so far? So now let us look at our code. Ito yung ating code, no? First, we have an HTML. We have HTML contents H and H1 and button. And then the button specifies what JavaScript function is going to be called when the button is clicked. But when we say on click, do you follow? And then we start with script, we end it with script, no? Okay, and then inside the script, we write the function click button. Okay. You can try this yourself. Okay. You can try this yourself. You can look at our website, no? And then here, no? Add 2 numbers. This is embedded anyway, no? So compute the sum. Naka-embed siya, no? 5. But you can view the page source by right-clicking on the blank size and view frame source. So that's the frame source. Now, if it's not embedded as a frame, you can click view page source. Okay. Any questions? Any questions so far? Okay. So you create your first website, no, in W3 spaces, because by next time I will give you an assignment. Okay. I will give you an assignment for JavaScript. It's not very difficult to do, no? Just log into that and create an index.html. You already have your first website. Okay. Now we can even I have a third version, no, of we can use href. There's a documentation here to link 2 pages, 1 page to another, no? Button tag, script tags, alert method, data types, variables, HTML input, linking to other pages. Okay. Okay, ito. Okay, do you follow? We can copy this, no? Instead of doing it like this, no? You can delete the scripts. Actually, pwede mo ito i-click ng ganyan and it opens. Okay. I don't know how the thing is done. This is my H1, my web page. You can put an image there if you like. Okay. My assignments. You can use an H2. Like this. This is how initially, no, I'd like you to do it like this. And then we'll have an href, href, add 2 numbers. Okay. like this, no? You follow? And then if you save this, no, and then you go to your spaces, no? There's an add two numbers.html. Now, if you edit this, this is actually the file, okay, which will ask for using this time using inputs, no? Okay, they follow like this, so that when you go here, no, so your assignments will be written like this, no? They follow. This is assignment number 1. You will have an href for assignment number 2. So, dito ba? Sorry, where am I? No, so anyway, ito yung add two numbers, no? And then you will have a link from your index.html. I created a link href, no, ahref. There's also an end tag a. Ahref is a link to another HTML file. So this must exist in your folder, so that when you have this add two numbers, no. So the first number is 2, second number is 3, and the sum is 5. Look at that, no. And then you can do a view page source. This is the source of add two numbers. Do you follow? Do you follow? No. Now, if you go back, so I'm sorry, I'm lost, no. I hope you picked up where I left off, no. So ito yan, no. I have A8 href. If you view the page source here, you will get the source of that second page, no. And then if you go back, no, this is the main page, no, and then you view page source. That's the page of the first page. Okay, do you follow? Now, so there's an href, and if you look at my sorry, my W3 spaces, no, you go back to your then I have the files, show files, no? Okay, so these are my files, no. They have index and add two numbers. These are linked. You can erase this, no. You can have your pictures, no, you can put it there. Okay, okay, they follow, no, they follow. I'll upload, the recording is still intact. There's nothing that changed, no? So anyway, let me check the attendance once more. Aguelo, Angeles,
Present, sir.
yes, let's do this quickly. Aranyas, you're there.
Present, sir.
Aresa, wala. Serbo, Clarde, yes.
Present, sir.
Kutanda, Espinosa, Guinness, Ibuyan, you're here. Iwata, Haraplasan. Kwan, you're here.
Present.
Ilyabe.
Present, sir.
Paraiso. Pigaw, you're here.
Present, sir. Yes po.
Recto. Raro, you're here. Rika. Tanduyan.
Present, sir.
I'm not yet going to reopen the test, no? The last test. I'm just going to review the results first. You can get your scores if you reopen the test. It will give you your scores. Marcia. Marcia, you're here.
Present, sir.
So anyway, no, it's about time, no? We have 10 minutes more, but I will not introduce a new topic. Okay. I will not introduce a new topic anymore. So make sure you create your your website. I will use that to check your assignment. I'm not going to require you files, but I'm just going to visit your your website like this. Okay? Do you follow? Okay. Any questions so far? Make sure you create this over the weekend because I will give you an assignment by next week. You have to be quick because by November 9, we will have our first summative, rather our only summative test. Okay? I think we can cover considering that you have background in programming already. Yang I-star ang aming language. Larde, what do you mean I-star? My star?
Sir, na-found out na po, sir.
What? Give me the URL, I'll check, okay? I hope you're able to resolve that, no? There's no star in my web page. Okay? So my examples I'm going to show here also, and it's also in Dagler, okay? Any questions? So see you next meeting. No? See you next meeting. I hope you're able to create your own web page and your first JavaScript program. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Goodbye,
Bye,
sir. Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Bye. Okay.